There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go. And we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay, hello. You know that it's not one of our shows unless I'm having technical difficulties right up until the last second. but,
There's my favorite. This is like, I don't know if I'm dating myself or if anyone will know. There's a show called Game Grumps on the YouTube, and there's a guy named Aaron who he has a line that me and my I was about to say roommate because I forgot where I was. I can just say husband here.
Oh my god!
I get two in the thing where I'm at work and I just refer to my roommates.
Oh shit! Yeah.
One husband, 2 roommates, 3 total people. Okay, but like we have the setup that I'm using right now. Aaron from the thing was like, we use the same equipment every day, and we come in and something doesn't fucking work. He screams this, but it's like we touched nothing. We just turned it off and on. Why is anything broken? It'd be like every time you go to turn your car on. Well, I guess I have owned a car like that. Where it's like, what happened? Nothing happened. What? Why are you broken? Why won't you start?
Yeah, it's like every time I feel like I touch anything around here. It's just like everything. And I don't have a permanent setup. Like I have to like transformers all my stuff. Like every time it's like bloop, 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 putting like physical transformers, putting everything on. And then I'll get like my cords are flashing or my lights are flashing and my camera went down literally like 0.1 second till when I was about to go on air and I couldn't get my link right. But,
I'm happy with this. I've swapped to a if you notice that my angle is slightly different, dear viewers. I am now on a cheap webcam, but it has like I think a clearer picture than my nice camera it was like running through before. Because then suddenly a cable just stopped working for absolutely no reason, and now we're here. But I don't know. The result seems fine to me. My head's just too close to the top of the frame, but that's all right.
I think that looks fine. Your video always comes fine for me, so I gauge that by everyone else. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if everything was just not working and we're just sitting here and it's like, oh yeah, it was just us talking to each other. Sometimes I've like think that that's happening and I checked and it's like, no, the stream is on, it's running. The countdown clock is running because I have done stupid shit like that before in my life. Anyways. Once again, while we were on the air, we're gonna have to start. Like, I don't know what's wrong with my trending topics. It's always like, here's some dumbass celebrity birthday, instead of actually being like, oh, half the country's on fire. So I miss things, and that's every time we're on the air. For some reason, some crazy shit goes down, and there is I'm getting word that there's a weird sound coming from my attic. I was just informed. Sorry. Okay, anyway, enough silliness. Oh, okay. Go listen and try to figure it out. We don't have an attic. So
something got into your roof.
Birds
Sure.
again. Birds are happening again.
Is there a raccoon in your ceiling?
Oh God, I hope not. We are constantly fighting raccoons because of the urbanization. It's just like, killed their any way that they could possibly live. And I don't care about raccoons out in nature. Like, go be a nature raccoon. But city raccoons are bastards, and I hate them.
Raccoons are. I like raccoons because they're in the fact that they are cute, but they are a pest animal, meaning that if you don't take care of them, they will just infinitely breed.
And they're like completely full of parasites, like really bad ones. And they're constantly, you're fighting them constantly. Like they don't stop. Like you can't stop them. Be like, hey, don't come here. They're like, no, I'll come there and I'll figure out whatever I want to do, and I'll break in and I'll steal all the food. So it's constant.
Unlike coyotes control their own population. They don't just breed out of control. So if you see them in your city, it's when I worked at my previous job, we would get calls where they're like, I saw a coyote, because it was a school, and it was like, we saw a coyote. What are you guys gonna do about this? And we're just like, we're a school. What do you what do you think we're supposed? I think like all the teachers run out with rifles, like, oh, we'll get them. Let's.
Right? Yeah. No, it's coyote breeding season around here, so they I guess get especially aggressive in this area around this time. And there's a lot of farm fields, and they kind of tend to like the farm fields and stuff. And it makes me nervous only because I don't care about coexisting. It just makes me nervous because there's a lot of cats, around.
They will attack your cats. Don't leave your cats
they
outside.
Will eat the cats. I was told by a neighbor who had regular 6-foot fence that they were standing there with their little Yorkie dog, and went right over the fence, grabbed their dog, and but because they made some were screaming and ran at it, it let it go and then jumped right back over the fence. So
they're not horribly aggressive, but they are brave and clever.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, because they start to realize, like, oh, people don't do anything to me. They don't even.
Exactly. Let me be here. Yeah, and the first time ever I saw a fox a couple of years ago in my area, and it's like that they're there, but like they're foxes, you never see them.
Because they're only out at like 3 a.m,
Right? Yeah. No, it was like it was such a weird thing because we had just watched. I don't know if you've seen this, but I recommend it. We had just watched the documentary Hellier. And it's really good. It's like a paranormal thing, but it just kind of spirals into like madness. And it's just like, how is this happening? To the point where like stuff starts happening to you when you're watching it. And you're like, what's happening? Because there's this whole big thing about a Mylar balloon. Like they are kind of directed to this area in the woods, and there's a Mylar star-shaped balloon there. I swear to God, the minute we watch that scene, I look in my yard, there's a fucking Mylar balloon, a purple Mylar balloon. I'm not even kidding. And then there was like a double rainbow the same day, and I saw a fox, and I never saw a fox. It was so bizarre. And then like some of the people that are in the documentary, they went to a place in Kentucky and they were talking about their personal genealogy, and my personal genealogy comes from the same area. And then they were talking about going to this natural spring, and I live near a natural spring, or what used to be until it got used up by capitalism. But anyway, it's a really good documentary. It's on what do you call it? Amazon Prime. So you can check that out if you want to. It's definitely worth it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think there's going to be another season of it coming. Anyways, you can tell that we are lunch buddies that get together like once a week to just talk shit and politics about what we've hated about the whole week. So you're just in on that. So that's what you get usually for the first couple of minutes of the show, is what weird shit is going on. And something's always going wrong right in the beginning of things. And it's the birds here lately. But anyways, we got a full show for you today just because there's so much madness going on. I think you know what we're going to be talking about probably mostly, and that's going to be wildfires. But we do have a couple of things we want to hit on. So on that note, have you heard about Red Note?
Yeah, that's last night I downloaded TikTok onto my phone because the government says that I'm not going to be able to soon. And one of the things that people are moving to from TikTok, which I'm not totally sure why specifically we're going after like Chinese social media apps, but Red Note is a Chinese. It's been called. Oh, this is the real Chinese TikToks. Like, it's the real. It's more like the Chinese Instagram. Apparently, I don't use Instagram either. But yeah, people are jumping on Red Note and talking to Chinese people and having a fun time.
Yeah, I understand that I guess it's meant to be an act of protest, but I mean, I guess that's about as good as Americans can muster. Because the whole idea it was a completely Chinese social media app that was completely in Mandarin.
That one's actually Chinese, unlike our version of TikTok, which is owned by a whole different company and all this blah, blah, blah.
And for people that had thought that like these government people or these people are not in the know about it, who thought that, it was Chinese, TikTok was Chinese owned and that it's not censored. It is censored like a motherfucker. Like, you can't say anything and get any traction anywhere. If you try to tag something like Luigi or or Syria, or that is, nobody is going to have 5 views on that. Nobody gets 5 views on a video on TikTok. It's not possible, right? Like, and I usually put out
Dang, I need to get on TikTok. Apparently, I've heard this. It's a hot new trend.
right. Well, the thing is like, I liked it a lot because it kind of brings me back to my whole filmmaker feeling of stuff. But it was always the thing that was like, it was like so much to do to make something nice. Like, you could slap something on there real easy, but if you want to, some real production value, then it takes some time. So I would kind of put it off. But I usually put out a promo video, just of me, talking about what we're going to talk about on the show. But I didn't even bother today because it's like, who the hell knows what's going to happen? I think that it's going to like magically be saved, and Donald Trump is going to be the one being like, no, we're keeping it, guys, we're keeping it.
It's so deeply unpopular,
right?
Such a deeply unpopular move, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's
like
so
if
stupid.
there really was some like national security issue, whatever, I could maybe understand the move, but it just isn't.
Right.
And it's like, guys, if you're worried about your data, it's like the freaking Whataburger app is taking your data. Like, American companies have taken.
Like, think about all the ridiculous bullshit that Mark Zuckerberg is using it to create AI slop with. Give me a break, okay? It is like the stupidest thing. But one thing I did see is they're already, screen capping things off of Red Note. And I guess their developers immediately saw this influx, and it's like #1 in all the app stores right now for downloads, which is so funny. So I guess it's some sort of active protest, but it's whatever.
I'm seeing obnoxious people who are like, they're well-meaning, but at some point it kind of becomes like, guys, is there literally nothing else that is more important? So I have people like, oh, you're on Redbubble, you guys think it's this great thing, but like, try talking about the gays and you're gonna get fucking banned. And then Chinese people are like, well, here are like 20 different gay like communities or however it works on there of like local people talking to each other, and it's fine. When I got to Shanghai, the third building I saw the airport, then I saw the train station, then I saw a gay bar. Literally, the second I stepped off the train, I'm like, hey, I was with a friend who was local. I'm like, so are those rainbows like coincidental, or is that a gay bar? He's like, gay bar. And I'm like, oh, so what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. No, like,
it's not that China is anti-gay.
Bullshit, basically. I mean, like, everything can be met. Every single thing can be met with actual truth. Shout out to Are You Time Traveler 2 in the chat. Hello. Thank you for joining us, one of our longtime viewers. One of the cool things that I already saw a screen cap for, I guess, something on Red Note, and it was just a text post that says, you guys don't need it. You guys don't need a new app. You guys need a revolution. And oh my God, at this point, we couldn't possibly need it anymore because, especially when we look at this wildfire situation and pretty much it's winter. It's not even fire season in the West at this time. But, it just things have gone. This is like pretty much the worst fires they've ever had. Ever. It's gone. Like, so much of Los Angeles is gone. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the hour because I was there filming a movie about 10 years ago. And I could talk about that a little bit later, but the fact of it is that the big headline here is we cannot go back, and we cannot go. It has to be going forward with health insurance. It has to be going forward with property insurance. These things have to go. We cannot go backwards and not pressure. We have two options here as I see it. Like, we nullify the government completely and start operating on our own system, and I don't think anybody's ready for that intellectually, or we start with having to pressure these assholes and that are completely bought off in Congress to do our actual bidding and get rid of these things. I don't know how well that's going to work, but I don't really see people. That's the problem. Conservatives and liberals, they're both on the same side at this time. At this point, it's basically the same thing. The ideology wise, so I don't really see anybody just. It seems to be the American way now to just be like, oh, okay, I'll just bend even further. It's fine. Like, we'll never actually break. We're Americans. We don't break. We bend.
The more I see of the results that get produced by when we even try to do good things, the more Elon Musk was like, I'm just gonna wipe out 7% of the government. The more I'm like, fucking do it, dude. I don't think he will actually is the problem. It's like, go absolutely, seriously, not ironically, not fucking sarcastically, do it, take it out. I see what happened. Like, you look around and go, wow, what is our money actually getting spent on? Oh, we're in California, the highest tax place like possible. We have all these fees, all these things. We spend more money, big gigantic economy, blah blah. And then when something actually happens, Sorry, guess your shit's on fire. Sucks. Anyway, we let your insurance drop you last month. We are California. It's
Yeah.
like just fucking. It would be better if there wasn't a government at all. I get maybe like or
Well, and North Carolina is still in shambles.
Uh-huh.
You know, in so I was told
Connecticut
yesterday.
is still fucked from Hurricane Sandy in like 2011.
Yes, and I was told yesterday that for the last round of fires, the really bad fires in California, that I guess I can't remember exactly where they said, but the last round of fires, people were getting charged because I guess it didn't meet code, like code enforcement code. Like they were getting charged like $1,800 to put a camper on their own wrecked property. You know,
Yeah.
so it's okay.
You
Things
see
have
people
not
issuing parking
changed.
tickets. The cops are issuing parking tickets in the middle of the fire. Like, you know what?
And ICE
Wipe
is
out the whole
running,
department.
ICE is going around. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll save that for the next part.
Yeah.
But Jared we did have an order here. It's like we hop on before, talk to each other for a few minutes, like we're going to do this and we're going to do this, and then we actually go on air and turn into idiots. It's just like bullshit about everything, and birds are attacking. Okay, let's try to put our heads on straight, because we
'cause
did
we're
have a couple of
human
stories we wanted to
beings.
cover. Okay, I'll turn things over to Mr. Jared here, and
I have
he's
I have
gonna
a
give us
very
an
quick,
update on Palestine.
hopefully a very quick, Gaza update. And the situation has not really changed. It certainly has not improved. But let me pull up my which screen do I need to share? This one, the one that is, the one that is no text of any kind. Okay, so a strange thing has happened where, while nothing that much has changed with the situation in Gaza, still messed up. They're still bombing them every day. Still talking about like maybe there will be a ceasefire, maybe they won't, blah blah blah. But the news, like the regular news, now seems to want to talk about it, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
We got freaking RBN. Chris Hayes from MSNBC and 60 Minutes are finally running scathing segments explaining how Biden enabled the genocide in Gaza. Remember how they lost that election? It's not that I don't think they lost it, quote, because Gaza, but I think that was one of the many, many reasons. And maybe if he'd reversed on that and various other things, they would have won the election, but I don't think they actually wanted to. Because it's like, which is more important, continuing this shit in with Israel and eventually like trying to overthrow Syria and overthrow Iran and overthrow Iraq and Afghanistan, completing the checklist of people we need to destroy, or winning an election. And I guess it was destroying the people. How sick is it that the liberal culture waited until the election, when Biden and Democrats stood no chance at winning, to expose this? How evil is Chris Hayes for endorsing and going to bat for Genocide Joe despite knowing all of his crimes? I harp on this fact all the time, how we seem to hold, like, if you're the little guy, if you're just some rando on the internet, you're held to a very high standard of consistency and truth, and if you're wrong once, you're wrong forever and you get thrown into hell. But if you're Chris Hayes, or like if you're an MSNBC anchor, or if you're CNN as a network, CNN helped us get into the Iraq war by just being like, yes, there's definitely WMDs. Why have we ever listened to them since that? It blows my mind.
Right.
But they get to continue to just hold their, quote, legitimacy because they're part of, they're just state media. This is what I mean when I say that we do have state media. We just pretend it isn't. Like, you will never hear any of the big, like, Fox or MSNBC divert on certain issues, and they will always follow a script. And Chris Hayes' script, he was handed a different script today, I guess, because now you see where freaking, what's the headline for it? Chris Hayes: Biden is leaving a disgraceful legacy on Gaza. Well, we were supposed to fucking vote for him a few months ago, and he was the lesser of two evils, and blah blah
Right.
blah. Former U.S. diplomat Hala Rarit says she documented images coming out of Gaza for the State Department. Quote, fragments of U.S. bombs next to massacres of mostly children. Like, this is 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is going,
Well,
what?
a few months ago,
What?
they tried to report. It was 60 Minutes that tried to put out a report on this, and everybody lost their goddamn mind, and they're like, okay, we take it back. It's not happening.
So,
Never mind.
sorry about that.
And the thing of it is, it's like, if nobody's like us can know about that, if people on the internet can know what's going on for over a year now, the people with the actual information and actual people who do this for a living, they have known the whole time and have been completely complicit in the situation and fanning the flames to make it worse.
The
So
Occam's
they have
razor, to me, the explanation that is like makes the most sense, blah, blah, is just it's state media. It's like they tell them what to say, sometimes directly, sometimes through little like nudges, like the YouTube algorithm. You figure out
right.
what you can and can't do, and if you say you really figure out what you can't do because you get fired. Like fucking Mehdi Hassan, like Mehdi Hassan would be such a great propagandist for anything because he has no morals. He doesn't give a shit. He'll say anything. Like, but he's very good at doing these shitty arguments. He got fired from CNN for not being enough of a Zionist. Like,
Well,
he
it's so
said the
weird.
wrong thing.
Well, it's so weird because it's like, okay, we know that like these professional anchors and stuff, they get paid a really good salary, right? Like we know that they're getting like really good money for this. But it's still like it's not the kind of money that should be able to make you want to do this and be happy with yourself and getting up every day and be like, I'm going to genocide today. It's like that's what doesn't make sense to me. It's like people can be bought off for such small amounts of money to do these things. And I think that is really the bigger picture of everything because it's like, okay, we can easily find people to go on TV and lie and get people killed in the worst possible ways. And they have no problem with it. They'll do it. So it's like, okay, if these guys will do it with basically no accountability, like you think your government's not doing it at all, like you think they're the honest guys who are getting even more money and even more benefits to do this kind of shit. So that's like and that's another thing that we'll talk about here in a little bit. This is the kind of thing where it's like you cannot fix this. This has to be. I need to stop getting so intense and like leaning up and sit normal, be a normal person.
No,
But
I
that's
think MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all of them should be like ruthlessly suppressed by the newly formed dictatorship of the proletariat once we take over the country for ourselves.
yeah, right. Or,
They should be made to work in a fucking field. Go have a regular job. That's
Right?
it. I don't think you should do firing squads or whatever psycho shit. What did China do with their previous emperor? Gave him a regular job. He worked a regular job, then he got like the CIA or whatever got to him for a bit, then he came back and he's like, guys, I'm so sorry. And he like had like served a short prison sentence and then just worked until he died as like a normal guy. Mwah. It's
Well, I think
perfect.
the only real way to fix the news problem, if that was how it was going to be, was like to stop doing the dirty work of the military industrial complex. Essentially, would be to this is the solution. People who are doing it independently, whether or not they've got a sponsor, they get money for it, or whatever, or they don't. Like by spreading it out among like more average people, then you're going to get a wider view of things and you get to choose who you want to listen to and who you want to believe, and then like eventually if somebody starts off as a firebrand of saying like, a leftist firebrand who's like, no, this is all bullshit, but then suddenly they turn tail. It's like, you have been compromised and you don't have to listen to them anymore. But for the most part, for most people, they don't know about people like us or even the big ones, like they just know about state media and that's who we're constantly contending with. And
But it
just
is
like,
why their
oh,
viewership
it would
goes
be
down.
on the news, so they just I didn't see it, and if they think if they turn off CNN or whatever, then they're not having to hear it. Then it's not happening. So it should be in your face all the time by like independent people, independent journalists.
That's kind of what the situation is, because viewership and ratings have never been lower for these companies, which is just further evidence that if it's not state media, like it isn't working within capitalism. They're certainly not like out competing or whatever. Like they're not the best. They're not the most important because they are good at what they do, whether it be pure entertainment, which it kind of is, or as actual. And that people either don't trust them, so they stop watching, or they find it boring, so they stop watching, or they aren't hearing what they want to hear, so they stop watching. Either way, nobody's watching these freaking shows. All right, my second half to the Gaza update, or the second like thing, which please don't take this as freaking Trump good, Biden bad, but while I think that there is an absolutely
Both
zero
bad.
chance. There's a zero chance the Democrats ever pulling out of this shit. It's very interesting that Trump in the last few days is like tweeting truthing, because it's on Truth Social, not on Twitter.
He's out there truthing it.
But he retweeted a video of Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs is a very based economist who tells like just reality on foreign policy all the time. And it's a long clip of him giving some talk somewhere, being like, who got us into the Iraq war? Well, it's blah blah, but also like Netanyahu himself wanted this, blah blah. And it's Sachs just trashing Israel for for several minutes, and Trump retruths that, and then Netanyahu cancels his planned trip to come to the inauguration. So it's what the fuck does that mean? Do we like his? Meanwhile, he's also putting Zionists. His whole cabinet is Zionists. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who is like, "You need to get me in office because I'm against the surveillance state," and now she's like, "I love the surveillance state. I will do anything."
Falling for her every couple of years. They're like, "She's an outsider," and I'm like, "She is number one insider." Like, this is like inside behavior, you guys. Like, come on, like, come the fuck on, like. And it's the same. It's the same as for, you like the people who voted for like John Fetterman. Like they thought they were voting for some other guy, and he got changelinged or something, and something happened.
Well, it's like, great.
I'm going to Mar-a-Lago.
Pennsylvania voted against Dr. Oz, but you get Dr. Oz anyway because he's in the cabinet. And then the guy you voted for to try and, I guess, stop Trump policies or whatever, John Fetterman, is now endorsing all of Trump policies. Like he's on TV like, we should, like, I agree on immigration. I agree on blah, blah. People
are bitching, being like, why doesn't he just switch parties? It's like, because they do this. This is like literally what they do. You remember like Kristen Sinema?
There's always one of them.
And Joe Donnelly. Like this is what they do. Like they say they're Democrats, wink, but they're upholding Republican values because they are.
Well, it's to keep up the fake fight. As soon as they get anywhere near, like, Democrats 1 through, it's Senate. Are there 50 total? No, there's 100 total. All right, Democrats.
I never know the numbers. I'm like, that's one thing that's just like my brain is not going to hold it in. It is just not happening.
Democrats 1 through 49 will all like hold the line, but you have to have at least one who's like, well, we can't get anything done. So anyway, here's Kristen Sinema. Here's who's the Virginia oil guy everybody hated. Here's John Fetterman. He's the next one. Like, because they can't actually ever take power because they have to have an excuse as to why they get absolutely nothing done, and I think it's play fighting and entirely on purpose. Uniparty, we've heard it all before. I'm reading a tiny bit from this article. Donald Trump has shared inflammatory video calling Benjamin Netanyahu a deep, dark son of a bitch, which Jeffrey Sachs says that in the video, which is a great line. Just weeks after the Israeli leader claimed the two had friendly, warm discussion about hostage negotiations and Syria policy. The president-elect posted the clip to Truth Social featuring economist Jeffrey Sachs, who accuses Netanyahu of manipulating U.S. foreign policy and orchestrating endless wars in the Middle East. I think it's a mistake to say that, like, Netanyahu is the kingpin. He's just part of the fucking machine. He's part of the empire. He's part of the empire. He's part of the, quote, globalists. We have different words for describing basically the same thing. The international ruling class that doesn't give a shit if America, as soon as we've all been squeezed of all of our worth, they'll move on to something else. They'll move to Canada. They'll move to freaking Greenland, whatever. These people who don't care anything about the U.S. itself, but we happen to be the ones with the army. Mm-hmm. And capping it off... of just, I don't want to see freaking President Carter. You're supposed to be showing me there. It is. So a lot of you probably saw this. We got Jimmy Carter's funeral.
Here we go. Yeah.
And we have, the man Donald Trump, who's supposed to be a threat to democracy, going to destroy America, like everything's going to burn it, going to put you in a concentration camp if you're anything but a white Christian nationalist or whatever the fuck they've been saying.
Deport everybody. Everybody's getting deported.
Years. Well, look at him. He gets to go to the things, and they shake hands, and then even Mike Pence. Mike Pence, they're friends again. I thought he was trying to get Mike Pence killed.
He literally was. He literally was trying to get people to kill Mike Pence.
And Mike Pence was supposed to be this big hero to us. And, I see he's switched sides. He's a man of principle. And it's like, I think they're all just kind of, like, I know they have to. They know they're being filmed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like it's exactly the same thing. It's like, when you see those pictures of Michelle Obama just like cradling George W. Bush, like he's so adorable, and they give each other candy, and then George W. Bush comes by and gives Obama a ball tap before he sits down, and like it's fake. The conflict is fake. There was a guy in Congress, I can't remember his name because he's not, part of the, establishment here. He's probably not getting any good bribes. But he come out with a video, what was it, 2-3 years ago? And he's like, hey, all this shit that they do online, all this firebrand crazy action stuff, it's fake. It's all fake. And we are all like, were you going to ask for some donations or something next? And he didn't. So this guy was legit. I can't remember who he was or who he represented, but I know everybody saw it. But he was going on about like all this stuff that you see them doing where they're yelling at each other and they're calling each other out and they're saying mean tweets, and it's all fake. And there was literally no greater view of that than this funeral. So okay, of course we get the liberals right on. So immediately poor Obama starts trending. Like, you assholes will make something up out of anything. Like,
Obama was forced
he
to
was forced to
bro
sit
it
there and laugh
down.
at jokes. Okay, was he forced to be telling them too? So was he forced to also entertain back? Was he forced? Okay, and I saw
Was he
the thing
forced to
of it
kill
is
hundreds of thousands of people in Afghanistan?
the thing of it is like, okay, like, and this is kind of, if you still have a Facebook, which my God, that's horrible. I keep it
It's
because
meta.
I've always
Respect
had
their
it.
pronouns.
Excuse me. Yeah, well, I've always had one. I was literally like one of the first people to have one. So it's sort of like it's a place where I can like upload
Did you
like
get
my
like
full.
invited? Was it back then? Like that
Yes,
far when you had?
I had to be. I
Yeah.
got it through invite. Yes. And then I started inviting people. So I was literally like, if you watch the movie, I was like in the first group, So I've had one and pretty much just
The
like
Facebook.
I was, yeah, the Facebook. Like, I was literally in it from the beginning, because I found out about it through some other people who were a little older than me and were in college, and I had just started college. So I was like, give me an invite, give me, hook me up, and it's because we were all doing MySpace at the time. So I
Mhm.
still have mine, mostly because I made movies, I write books, I have professional contacts there. So I also can upload my artwork and stuff in privately, so I have a place to save it, and I can have it at full size and great big things. So for me, in a few ways, it's useful. But when it comes to interfacing with people, it's just fucking impossible, because like it's like the worst liberal people you've ever met in your entire life, and they literally believe what they're saying. And I'm looking at like individual people, because sometimes we group these people together, we mostly do, and say, why do they think this? It's so stupid. But then when you see them in like their individual points of view, I saw someone the other day who their comment was literally something along the lines of, Zelensky offered to send 150 firefighters to fight the fires. I might cry. Throw yourself into the sun. Do that instead. You'll be that much more useful to all of the rest of us, because that is the most idiot. I mean, like, these people have this most idiotically warped
He could
view of
just
things.
he could just
And
send back some of the money.
yeah, right. Yeah, maybe send some money back. And that's the reason I bring that up, is because that's where the liberals are, first of all. But secondly, because they literally believe what they're saying, like, with conviction. They will spin any kind of story. It's like we've all been in an argument with a person, maybe not even over politics, but then they just say something so outrageously stupid and wrong. It's like, well, this is over. Like, I can't go on with this anymore. You are not even worth the time or the effort, because you are just psychotic. Because the thing of it is that they will just make up a new conclusion to everything. Like, they think Zelensky is a good guy. They think that Obama was under duress at this funeral. And of course, there's decorum there. There's you're at a funeral, at a state funeral, you're state people, or you're on your best behavior. But they're also going to sit there and pretend that like Obama was under duress and that he was just being polite. And it's like, give me a break. If you're just being polite and you don't want to talk to somebody, you will let them talk to you. You will minimally talk to them back. You don't sit there and shoot jokes back and forth. Like, that's, you could see they were both doing it. They were both engaging. And um you even at this point had some conservatives coming on up being like, hey, so is this not enough for people? That's what I'm trying to say. These people, like, they do not serve you in any way, shape, or form. Like the people, what we were saying earlier, if you voted for John Fetterman, you voted for somebody who this guy is not. Like,
Yeah,
he was a
you
liar.
got the thing you were voting
Horrific.
against anyway.
Right, yeah. So you voted for someone who said he was this guy, but then I don't give me that stroke business. He said he was this guy, and now he's this guy. You didn't vote for this guy. You voted for this guy. So
I don't know,
and
maybe
then
MK Ultra's real and they just like did it on John Fetterman and it
right.
worked. It is. I'm not a conspiracy. I don't think it's really happened, but it wouldn't shock me too much if you found out like years later, because he sure acted one way and then he got in and then suddenly he can't, like. I don't think he's faking brain damage. He has brain damage now, and it
Yeah,
might be
probably.
actually from a stroke. Maybe they just freaking hit him in the head with a pipe. I don't know what happened,
Well,
but
he didn't have a good reputation in the first place, with a lot of people who dug deep, right? So, leftists were really not a fan of him, But and then
well,
in
he came
December,
out as the doing the best he can, and oh god, is it Bradford? I think just like the most freaking messed up, sad post-industrial because they lost their steel mill town near Pittsburgh, and he's like, I'm bringing, and it certainly didn't turn it into a paradise, but the lines were starting to go up in things that matter, where it's like, oh wow, people are killing each other less, and people have a little bit more food, and like someone's doing something in this just completely wrecked town, and he was like the legal weed guy way before that
Yeah,
was just everybody was into it. So there was
right.
enough there that like I freaking like John Fetterman when you first hear about him, because like, oh, what a cool guy, but
Yes.
he is not in it like that has not stayed consistent. I mean, is he up there fighting for the federal legal weed? No.
No. And
Is
I was about to bring up the exact same thing because he
no.
used to hang like a weed flag outside of his office, like on the window, like when he was like in lower ranking, and then now he's like waving an Israel flag. Like
Israel
those things
flag.
don't go don't go together. And the thing of it is that they that's the guy that the people thought they were voting for, and I feel like that was the motivating factor in a lot of ways because that really appealed to people who were outside of his district or whatever, or when he would be in interviews and stuff, be like, I don't see the big deal. There's no problem. It's making a bigger problem not having it. We should all have it. Let's get it and move on. Because everybody basically feels like that, majority wise. Like, how many more polls do you need to see that people want weed? I don't care. Like, I live in a dry state. It's ridiculous. The states around us, they just sit it, like they're making money hand over fist. And then what do we have here? Cops sitting at every exit on around the state waiting to pull people over because it is that's how they decided the revenue was going to be. We just got a new governor and he's an asshole, Mike Braun, and he was a congressperson and now he's going to be governor. Total asshole, but he has said that he really isn't have a problem with it, so we'll see if he follows through on it. But it's like, how much revenue is this stupid ass state losing to literally every one of the other states around us? It is so stupid. And again, I think Trump might even, he's always been against it or just kind of just poo-pooed it, didn't really care, but I think even he might be like, we're going to go ahead and decriminalize because I want everybody to like me. So, and it worked for John Fetterman, it can work for me. So we'll see about that. That's just kind of a fringy theory that I have about that. But the whole point we're making here is that like it is exactly the George Carlin quote. It's one big club and you ain't in it, and that's what's going on here. These people are working together. They are working for the same means. There are only so many of these billionaire corporations that are to offer them. So it's like, you think that if they come out and say, I don't take big pharma money. Well, you're taking agricultural money to cut down the forests or whatever. You're taking oil money and, every one of these people, you're taking IPAC money, everyone. So it's like they're getting multiple lobbies and multiple industries paying them off. And then that's how they go into office broke as a joke and come out, multi-millionaires at the end of it.
It is, I use the wrestling analogy quite a bit because I talk about how the people who you have elected are not the top layer of government. They don't actually make the decisions. Their sponsors make the decisions for them. And that would be probably, again, another Occam's very easiest explanation. What happened to John Fetterman? He either just saw the money or the money / I mean, it also comes with like threats. It's a very carrot stick situation where go ahead. Go crazy. Say the things you actually believe. Go against any of this, and we will either get you booted from your. They got frickin' Cory Booker, who is not a revolutionary or anything. He's out. Frickin' Jamal Bowman's out. Like these very mild
Cory
people.
Booker got caught taking money, and he was like, "I gave it back." but he did.
Like
too.
they will remove you because you are an actor.
We got a comment from Are You Time Traveler 2 in the chat. This is funny that they said a cashier once said to them that they can't have hemp plastic bags, at the grocery store because teenagers will smoke it. So this is what people believe. So then they followed up saying, same cashier said, I was disappointed my food stamps got cut out, and they said it's because the Mexicans are getting all of the free programs. So this is what your lay people, this is what your neighbor, this is what your coworkers actually believe is going on, and you have state media to thank for that. You don't have social media to thank for that, because I think everybody on this side of it needed social media to wake our asses up. So if they were being radicalized by social media, we'd all be on the same side by this point. It's because they're taking what they're being given on the television.
It's why I consider, it sounds real weird when I say it out loud, but like give you a second here. Racism, historical racism, because I'm not saying that people don't have negative feelings in their hearts and aren't mean to each other. That definitely is a thing, but the way that racism is essentially wielded as a weapon of the ruling class to make sure we can never like come together on shit. Because you take the true idea of the government is not taking care of us. The government is not doing it. In fact, it's doing the opposite. It is extracting value from us, and which is a valid and true point. But then it has to get tinged so no one can ever like team up with because they're giving it to blank or blank or blank or like it has. Oh, it must be some other minority group that is like getting. It's like
Yeah.
that's
You
what they
can't have it 'cause
sell
it's
to
going
people.
somebody less deserving than you.
It's no, everyone's fine. Like,
Right.
when you have towns where that's why you end up with towns who are like we're taking over your community center to help a blank group of people, and now you just don't get your community center. What does that do to the community? Suddenly, a lot of people who had no negative feelings in their hearts about like Guatemalans or whoever, Haitians, blah blah, before, now they do, huh? It's like, oh, those fuckers came in and took our gym, and
Ate all of our dogs.
it seems on purpose. Like, why would the government of that town do that move? I
Yes.
mean, partially to like virtue signal and be like, look at all the good stuff we're doing, but also it sure does make the poor people fight amongst themselves, which
Race
is,
war.
it's the primary goal is to get us to
Yes.
always be fighting each other.
It's some version of a distraction. It's that old analogy that's like you got poor white and a poor black, and then it's somebody in politically powered saying to the poor white, he's the one taking all of your work. He's the one taking all of your resources, and to ignite that petty argument between people and keep making people think it's an us or them thing. We've seen community be eroded consistently since probably the Second World War. Any kind of sense of community did not serve the bottom line of capital. So by getting people suspicious of each other, by creating individualism, it serves a purpose. That's why we don't even have public transit barely in this country, because it's like that doesn't contribute to the bottom line in the way that these corporations want them to. And now we live in this, like, there's a word for it, but I can't think what it is. It's like corporateocracy at this point. Like we don't
Neoliberal imperialism.
Yeah, like exactly. And the neoliberalism has really just become like the way of life. And that's what I was complaining about earlier, was that like, okay, in the beginning of America, like, what did we do when we had a tyrannical, out of control government who wanted to charge you a bunch of taxes for nothing? It seems like there's a pretty famous story about what America did when they didn't want to be under the control of a tyrannical, out of control government.
We need the third American Revolution. We had the first one, overthrow the British. Second one, overthrow the institution of slavery, which also, directly benefited the British still, because they would use the only reason England could abolish slavery there was because they were doing it here. In the same way that the U.S. can abolish child labor here because they're doing it in every other country in the world. Like, they contract with whoever in Africa and Asia and blah blah blah. Like, our industry supported that, so yeah, good. Second American Revolution, good with that. Yeah. Wow, that was not words. Second American Revolution, also called the Civil War, got rid of that, and we now need the third one where we overthrow the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, it really is. We really need to take a note from our own history, and it's stop the toleration. Like, stop acting like with these puritanical values, acting like it's a good thing for you to just bend and bend and bend and bend and never break. We have broken over and over and over again. It is clear to everyone at this point, whether you are on like the furthest right or the furthest left or somewhere in between, that this is not tenable, nor should it even be going on just for funsies. We are losing so much value of our lives to throw it down the machine hole. It's not happening. Like, there's a movie that's a silent film, very famous, Metropolis, German film. Yeah, you've seen it.
I know about it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Well, you can watch it on YouTube. It's excellent. Like, first time I saw it, somebody was playing a clip of it in school, and I've always loved silent film and movies. Obviously, I made a movie and wrote a book about Buster Keaton. I love silent film. But the thing of it is that, like, when I first saw a clip from Metropolis, they were mostly just demonstrating like the work, the imagery of the workers going into this big machine mouth, and like they were like sustaining the metropolis above the capital. Like, they were literally like basically like fuel of the capital.
Joe versus the volcano.
And I was so like mesmerized by it, and then they turned it off, and I was like, no, I gotta see how this goes.
So talking about revolutionary, or rather radicalizing moments that that you can just see them running around trying to divert to. No, it's something else. It's
Yes.
the poors, it's the
It,
blacks, it's
you
the
can watch
Mexicans. It's the...
Metropolis online on YouTube for free, and it is a masterpiece. But more than that, 100% truth about how the workers are basically looked at as like as fodder, as coal, essentially to burn in the industrial machine that runs the city, the metropolis above. So I definitely recommend looking at that just for the message, if not, just because it's really fucking cool. But that's where we are right now. That's what gets us to where we are right now. In California, we know that they historically have had really horrible fires, right? And then we get these bad faith
For
arguments
hundreds of
about,
years.
yeah, for hundreds of years, right? But it's getting worse, obviously, because of climate. And that sounded like a Trump statement, because of climate.
Because of climate. Goddamn climate, get out of here.
Climate. But it's true. And we know that it's getting worse all the time, and everything everywhere is getting worse all the time, and it's making things worse. So it's making these bullshit institutions like insurance become even more predatory, because we can see now, and we've always known, like kind of in an individual way, that any kind of insurance offers no value. It literally just exists to take money from you and tell you no. That it's something that should not be there. It's parasitic. It should not be there under any circumstances. Like, yeah, if you want to buy special insurance on your luxury vehicle or some shit, or your sports car, fine, whatever. But it should not exist for health, and it should not exist for living. These are things that are tax dollars go towards, or should be going towards funding. They should be, we should be funding ourselves, self-funding. It should always be the government's responsibility to take care of the health and the well-being of people. And that means making sure they have a place to live as well. So I could just attest a little bit to going there. We know that the Pacific Palisades, which essentially, for anybody who doesn't know, like, I'm not going to be California expert right now. I'm just going to say from my personal experience. So Pacific Palisades is basically like a giant neighborhood, and giant neighborhood. And, there's like Woodland Hills is a giant neighborhood, and there's like all these different, like, you've heard of these words, and they're just like giant neighborhoods. Pacific Palisades is gone. I was there shooting. If you go and watch my film, I shot in the home of what had been Carol Arthur and Dom DeLuise's house. I was in their house. I was looking at photographs of their wedding. Like, there were photos everywhere of like Dom and Burt Reynolds, like in her, and then like she was a friend of Buster's, and knew Buster and worked with Buster. So I was literally in there. She's passed away now. Like, she wasn't in the fires, but and he was passed away before I went to film the movie. But I was in their house. That house, the whole Palisades is gone. So I assume it went with it. So that, and so if you want to see what it was like, it takes something like a movie I made to be able to see that. Now, also Buster's last house that he lived in, this didn't burn down to fire, but it got torn down for some reason. So that's gone. So I have footage of that, and that's what we have to look at now. It's like, there are all these places that are just gone from history. The Will Rogers Museum burned down. Like, there's all these like actual historic areas that burned down. There's the William S. Hart house and museum, silent film actor, I think avoided fire for now. We were there as well, but you go to these places and it's like this, like okay, they're not entitled to their history because it's in a burn zone. Like, it doesn't compute with me in such of a way. So that's like my personal, in Santa Monica, I guess burned down, and I sat in traffic for 2 hours in Santa Monica at one point, so there's all these places that just in my own personal memory that I look back on when I spent, a month there shooting. And I think about like, okay, well, I was in places that don't exist anymore, and it is crazy to me to think about things like that, because like if it was like a place that burned down, you're like, oh, that's disappointing, these things happen, such and such. If it's an entire culture, an entire legacy, of families, and there are generational families out there too, they're gone, and they're being told they're shit out of luck. And
I pull up. I have some details I can throw out here.
Yes.
We're of course talking about the Palisades. I keep wanting to say Palisades.
Palisades.
The
No,
Palisades.
it's Palisades. Yes, Pacific Palisades.
I live like 6 hours from LA now, and I still don't. I've been there a couple times now. I still do not really know these neighborhoods. It's such a large city.
It's
but
an unusual place. It really is.
So insurance. California has a weird insurance thing we're going to be talking about here in this article. Pacific Palisades, the LA neighborhood that's been devastated by the fire, is emblematic. It's like CBS Day today. We're doing a lot of CBS. this is what is it? Emblematic of the insurance nightmare increasingly facing homeowners residing in regions prone to climate disasters. The American economy is almost entirely fire industry, finance, insurance, real estate, FIRE, fire industries, and more. I mean, everyone already knows that insurance is basically a scam, but when you start hearing this, it's like, wow, it's like a mega scam. And
Yes.
and most of our economy is kind of like this. The entire financial sector is basically a big Ponzi. I say basically, kind of literally a big Ponzi scheme of you borrow to pay off your debt, to pay off the debt that you borrowed to borrow against. And when you hear like libertarians going off about how the American economy is about to freaking explode, they're kind of right. They might be wrong about exactly why, but yeah, we're headed towards an insane disaster. I need to get my money out of the stock market. About 1,600 policies in the Pacific Palisades were dropped by State Farm in July, which sounds like, what? The State Farm? Huh? California Department of Insurance spokesman Michael Solar said in a Thursday email to CBS Money Watch. So 1,600 policies in that town that's now gone, the Pacific Palisades, dropped by State Farm. Not they dropped
That's
them
just
voluntarily.
State Farm. That's not to say
Yeah.
Allstate or any of the other places either.
So, what is it? State Farm also dropped more than 2,000 policies in 2 other LA zip codes, which include Brentwood, Calabasas, Hidden Mills, Montanido neighborhoods. In an email to CBS Money Watch, State Farm said, "Our number one priority right now is the safety of our customers, agents, and employees impacted by the fires and assisting our customers in the midst of this tragedy." Our customers. State Farm's decision, you guys know Cyberpunk? State Farm's decision reflects a trend of private insurers, including Allstate and Farmers Insurance, dropping California policies or halting underwriting, leaving homeowners with the choice of getting coverage through the insurer of last resort, the California Fair Access to Insurance Requirements Plan, or FAIR plan, or forego insurance altogether. The FAIR plan provides basic, it's a public option basically, provides basic insurance coverage for properties in high-risk areas when traditional insurance companies will not. As a result, homeowners in Pacific Palisades have increasingly shifted to the FAIR plan, with roughly 1,400 of the town's 9,000 homes covered by that plan in 2024, more than quadruple the number in 2020. According to data from the insurer. In other words, prior to the disaster, about 1 in 7 homeowners were reliant on the FAIR plan. And even if you consider insurance as like a legitimate industry, I do think that there should be the job that insurance conceptually does. You know, if you get super effed over by stuff that isn't your fault, you shouldn't just be ruined, and there should be some kind of insurance that your life will be able to continue. That is a thing that should happen. That should exist. We should be helping each other out. We have this gigantic government that has an insane amount of money that's just our money, like put into a pool, and then when shit goes down, you got no help offered at all. But you see where the private industry, the private insurance, is just offloading actual risk onto the state, and then the state sucks also. Like, how many people?
That state insurance is going to give you 0 point nothing. Like, that's basically what it is. Like, yeah, you can have it all day, sure.
And I'm sure it's not free. Like, it still costs money.
No, yeah, and that's part of the scam of it all too. It's like, no, if I live in a disaster zone, if I live in your country, then you put me the value back of every single thing that I have lost. And that is the government's responsibility. And I don't care if they don't like it or it doesn't seem fair to the government. We can pay for it. We can pay for it. That's the whole fucking thing now. It's like all the money that's gone to Ukraine and Israel, I think, is really showing people that our government can afford it, because that was always an argument before. It's like, well, how would our government afford it? We couldn't possibly afford it. We still have slavery money. We could afford it. We could absolutely afford it. And if you don't like it, then get behind some climate measures. You know,
close one military base and you could rebuild this town 1,000 times.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, the thing of it is that there's a big picture to this now. And that is, well, if you look at what's happened in every other place that there's been a giant natural disaster, which are getting more and more and more, you know, if you go to the southern coast of the U.S., where, you know, like Louisiana, Mississippi, where Katrina hit, years later, that was all redeveloped into casinos and hotels and on the beaches and area and things like this. And I'm sure short-term property rentals now, because you know, like at the time that really wasn't a thing, but it is now. It's huge and horrible and a blight, and it needs to stop. But point is that the same thing happened to Maui. They held that off a little bit by saying it was cultural land, but developers always ultimately get their way. And it happened in Puerto Rico multiple times. So the thing is that the top 1%, the ruling class, the upper echelon of society, they always benefit from these natural disasters because it makes them a shit ton of money, because then they know that there's no way that an average person can ever rebuild, because nobody's going to insure them, and they don't have the money to rebuild. So they're going to end up a refugee somewhere else. They don't care where else. They buy up all the property, and then they put casinos on the motherfucker. And of course, they can afford insurance or to rebuild. So that's ultimately what we're talking about here. That's why there are not laws in place to stop this. That's why no one is advocating for this. What fucking Gavin Newsom, who should be shot into the sun immediately, was so jittering with excitement in interviews, saying, I'm already thinking about LA 2.0. We're gonna Olympics, guys. There's gonna be sports. And it's like, you bastard. You absolute bastard. These thousands and thousands of people once again have lost everything, and they cannot rebuild. And there are generations of people. We think of California not being very old, and according to the rest of the United States, it's not. But still, we're talking about 200 and some years of some people being there. Like I'm like 8th generation Indianian, so I understand what that means. I don't love that, but I am, and and they should get to have the benefit of the same thing. And it's an absolute complete disaster. And then in that press conference, one of that last babbling press conferences that Biden just had, he said they're going to get a one-time payment of $700. A one-time payment.
$770.
So, excuse me. So you're right. It was $750, and he said it twice. A one-time payment. He said he made sure he was able to say a one-time payment 2 times in that. So I mean, this benefits them. They own land. These people own land, and if they don't directly, because sometimes there's laws against what you can own, then their siblings do, then their spouses do, then their spouses' parents do. They make sure that the people in their orbit are able to hold the assets or acquire the assets, through the lobbying and through this, the double dealing that happens. So at this point, things can never go back. And I cannot stress this enough. This is why we're here, to try to get this message across anyways. But if people allow this to continue, how much worse does it have to get? Like, that's literally it. I don't what is the answer? How much worse does this have to get? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Something is going to happen to literally everybody in the country. It doesn't matter if you live in a safety zone. It's not if, it's when. So,
it's not even that it's a huge series of conspiracy things. Like people will talk about, oh, the CIA started the Maui fires. It's like, I don't know, maybe they did, but it's kind of like, is a casino a conspiracy because the house always wins, because the games are all set? Like, you don't put a game in a casino that doesn't have like a payout rate that's below 50%. You have to, like, some jackpots will be won, but in the grand scheme of things, your casino will go out of business if you don't have the games all pay out slightly less than they take in. These systems are set up so when it's kind of like a reverse jackpot situation, right, when messed up things happen, it's going to the things are going to slide towards the house, the government, well, not the government, the people who actually run the government, our international owning class who don't give a shit about California or America or any country. They have freaking private islands. They literally have plans to escape Earth. I mean, it's not going to work because these guys are actually not like brilliant or anything. Like, they aren't going to escape to Mars. They're going to be eaten by people like me. Which goes that crazy.
Right? But that's the whole thing. It's like that's why there are no laws to stop this. That's why these insurance companies are allowed to just run complete amok and destroy people on every facet. And that's knowing that they can't, they won't nobody will reinsure these people for these areas. And that's where we ultimately like land, like like I said, and Newsom is just so excited to say, oh, we're going to do so much more. Like, and he's thinking of like industriousness. And I hope that he loses his place, and he
ran on, I'm going to fix the forest fires, and then did nothing. So this is my final thing I'm doing. We're almost out of time. And just as a heads up, I do not have a song today because I sound like I've done less like on this show than I have for several weeks, but I have a bit of a cold right now and I can't sing very well, even though I sound fine, huh? But
you're not a machine. It's fine by me when you don't want to do it. It's always a special treat.
So here is just one of, there's about 9,000 different examples of this that one could bring up, but here's just one of them. Why was the Santa Ynez Reservoir empty when the fires broke out? You pay so much money in California in the form of taxes and frickin' fees, and just your house, even if it's a piece of shit, costs at least $1 million, et cetera, et cetera. And then what return do you see for all of your own money that's just frickin' getting flushed down the toilet? Oh, look, our whole neighborhood is on fire. Maybe all of that money could be used to put out that fire? The reservoir was taken out of service to meet safe drinking water regulations, the DWP said in a statement. This isn't like, oh, friggin' Jared hates drinking water regulations. Obviously not. A tear in the reservoir's cover made the water supply subject to contamination, the LA Times reported, leading the agency to drain it in February. I guess it was, oh my God, February of last year? It just sat empty for a year? We couldn't fucking fix a tear in a cover in a year? The water system serving the Pacific Palisades area and all of LA meets all federal and state fire codes for urban developing and housing, is a press release from who? Oh, the DWP, Department of Water Protection. The DWP representatives did not respond to further questions about the reservoir from CBS News. The agency's statement suggested that the fact that the reservoir was empty for nearly a year was in part due to the process of contracting a company to carry out the repairs. We couldn't find enough middlemen to make this cost as much as possible, so we just didn't fucking do it. To commission the support and resources to implement repairs to Santa Ynez, the LA Department of Water Protection is subject to the city charter's competitive bidding process, which requires time. The statement read, some social media users falsely claimed that the reservoir sat empty for over a decade. Oh, okay. Well, that I guess wasn't true. Pointing to satellite images as supposed, they went on Google Maps. A floating cover was installed on the reservoir in 2011, changing the appearance of the reservoir in satellite imagery, but the reservoir was returned to service in 2011, according to DWP's website. So it's like a whole lot of like, the conclusion here is basically, let us pass the buck many, many times. No one's responsible for
nobody's to
anything.
blame. Exactly.
The fire chief quit. The mayor, oh my God, she literally left the city. Like she did what's his name? She did a Ted Cruz. She got on a plane the second the disaster went bad.
Yeah, and this whole thing, it's like it was almost as if they've never experienced anything like that before.
Every year this shit catches on fire.
By the way that it was handled, because it was really, really insane. We know that people are trying to be like, she didn't take away the budget for the fire department. They just needed lots and lots more that they had to give to the cops.
They use the budget like shit is the other issue. They have all this money and they do nothing with it. The fire hydrants didn't work for whatever reason.
Right? And then people are like, why didn't the fucking fire hydrants work? That's literally what they're there for. Come to find out, the fucking pistachio farmers stole all the goddamn water. So, and it's not just them. It's literally like there's like avocado farmers. Like it's like obviously we need. My camera was going dead. Obviously we need these things. Like obviously,
Indiana has a team of salt trucks for when shit freezes. They don't just go, oh my God, what do we do?
No, we don't. They just found out there's like 15 missing salt trucks, and almost all of the rest of them
someone steal
in a parking
the
lot broken. So
Jesus.
they're not even doing side streets. They just stopped.
At least that's funny, because where I grew up in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, they did take care of the roads. At least usually. Like sometimes it would take a bit if it was a really bad blizzard. But like, why does California take a little bit of that budget and just have a big old fleet of trucks of water? I don't know. Like, I'm an idiot, and I feel like I could at least have some good cracks at some ideas where currently I guess the ideas are nothing.
The continued militarization and police state of things.
Get the cops to freaking get a super soaker. Get them out there, man.
Yeah, and they haven't done anything. There's been plenty of videos of hundreds, if not thousands of cars of cops just lined up along like the Pacific Coast Highway, doing nothing, and they're getting paid
pulling people over and writing tickets.
They're writing tickets for parking right now. ICE is doing sweeps. Homeless camps are getting torn up. They're using this as an opportunity, like they were waiting for it to happen, if not started it. And the fact
get ready for the Olympics. That shit's gonna get into super overdrive.
And then there have been a lot of stories about when people would on fire, like the shit's literally burning down, and they run up to cops for help. Cops are like, "Get the fuck away from us, or we'll kill you." And then like they like literally don't help anybody do anything. So this is what the money went to. I don't care about arguments about pettiness about this, that, the other thing. It went to the people who are pocketing it and militarizing the state to protect capital that they couldn't even protect in the end, because there is a bigger plan here that these people with the money, the big corporations, the billionaires, the millionaires, the multimillionaires, they are playing the long game. They didn't, a lot of them did get their money overnight, but they also realized, like, if we wait around a little while, Los Angeles is going to burn down. And that is like the most valuable real estate in the country. And we can just take it. We can just have it after that. And they just wait around for it to happen. So that's why they
already winning. If you're already winning, you get to win a little more every time bad things happen.
Yes, exactly. That they benefit from these tragedies and these climate disasters. That's why there's no emphasis and no incentive for these large corporations to be like, we need to fix the earth, we need to do something. Who you would rightly think like, oh, well, they could turn the tide, right? Like they could get other people in on it, but they don't, because they literally benefit from it. Look at just like in general, the way the private equity companies have just been buying up houses like fucking crazy since the pandemic started. Like just because they found a window to be able to do it and can. Like, okay, so you think
these are millionaires we're talking. I think somebody are you time travelers talking in the thing? This is a neighborhood of millionaires, which in LA makes you like, it's like median if you're a millionaire. It's because a shitty house costs like $1.5 million. Even if you're a low-level millionaire now, that's not good enough. You got to be like the high-level millionaires are coming in to get the low-level billionaires are now going to move in. Like
and they
it doesn't end
things like this. Like they wait for even people on the lower level. I went to high school with some chode that like moved to Puerto Rico after one of the hurricanes there because he knew that he could start a construction business and immediately start like buying up land and shit. And it was like one of the worst people I've ever known in my life. So it's like these people like they if you've got a little bit of capital, now things are so bad that you can jump in on these and take advantage of these really horrible things, even at a small level. Like you can be establish a small development company. You can establish a home flipping company, and you can be done very, very easily. And now these gigantic corporations and these gigantic money people can take the most valuable real estate in the country. This is like the ultimate dream that's happened here. So if things are not going to change at this point, with just on the even the small level of things, like everybody has to change their mindset to figure out where we need to go from here. Because when you're in a country this size that can't manage itself and nobody can agree on anything, how do we literally solve these problems? We know what we don't want anymore. Hi.
Hi, John. How you doing?
You have a camera to wrangle today.
Is it his turn? Are we cutting into his time?
At least there's pants on. Yeah, well, could have gone way worse. We're gonna get kicked off a red book or whatever. Red
note.
Red note. You can't be gay on red note.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much our rant for the week. Like, anyways, and that's probably because are we cutting into his time? Is it time to share?
Look, pretty soon we'll go back to daylight. Oh wait, are they brought that up again? That they're like, we're gonna make daylight savings time permanent, just like they did last 2 years ago and whatever. So once daylight saving time flips back over, me and him have an hour buffer where we can go over more over, but. And this time he starts at noon my time and we end at noon my time, or 7 minutes past now.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's time for us to probably wrap it up because we just end up getting so like spun out. We just sit here and yell at our cameras.
It's nice. I specifically do this because it keeps me from having these same rants on Twitter to people who don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I just seem like a crazy person because you only get like 3 of the sentences of the middle of the thing and not the whole, let me set up 65 different premises to make this weird statement make sense when I say that like racism is a weapon of the ruling class. What?
No, wait.
Well, give me a second.
Exactly. So that's our show for the week, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your participation and watching. As always, you can catch the reruns of our show at your leisure on YouTube and our archive on Twitter, but YouTube is basically and Rumble. Where are so many places? I get so confused. But
Freaking, I paid for Twitter to get my long ass video on there, but it's not one of the accounts I want to use to do this. So freaking, can I like use my Blue to move over to a different
fine.
account?
And yes, everything's so stupid at this point. That's why we have the show, because everything is stupid and we can't stand it, and we have to have a way to yell at something. It's blame somebody for something for an hour a week. Yes. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. We're gonna hop off here so that we can not cut into any more time. It belongs to another person for another thing, so we don't want to make it worse. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back at the same time next week. Just follow us and everything like that everywhere. Following is getting a lot harder, like, because everything sucks and they hide things. So just do
See
your
on Red Note.
Yeah, you'll see on Red Note probably. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But anyway, thanks so much for being with us, and we will see you again next week. So bye, guys.